Even though it originally released way back in 2011, the frozen mountains and forested valleys of the northern realm of Tamriel are still unveiling new secrets and mysteries to this day, some of which even the most learned scribes can't solve. Whether you've already logged 100 hours of playtime or are just picking up one of the many re-releases, these are 7 of the best unanswered questions in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. The first head-scratcher we're going to look at is a special set of flatware that you can find and equip to use as weapons. If you've got the Hearthfire DLC included in the Switch and Special Editions, you can pick these up no problem by buying a house in Riften, add a porch to your new home, and you can grab them off the table on the back deck. Open your inventory and you'll be able to equip them. They both count as one-handed weapons, but they only do a measly 1 point of damage each, so we wouldn't recommend using them in any important fights. What's really mysterious, though, is that you can also pick up a set way up towards the throat of the world, down a ravine on the path from High Hrothgar. When you reach this wooden bridge after leaving the courtyard, make your way down the rocky slope to find a fork and knife sitting on the rocks below. Now, you can't interact with them at first since they seem to be practically glued to the mountain, but you can knock them loose with a well-aimed blast of unrelenting force. Be very cautious, however, because it's all too easy to send them flying off the mountain or, worse yet, clipping into the rock face. Either way, there's a good chance you'll overdo it on the first try, so consider dropping a quick save here if you want to pick up this set. Now you may be thinking, oh, this is just a dumb Easter egg the devs put in, and you know what, maybe that's true, but considering that almost every other Easter egg also has a bit of Elder Scrolls lore attached to it, we've got to ask, what are they doing up here? There's no body nearby, so nobody froze to death while on a picnic, and I think it's pretty unlikely that any of the goats or ice wraiths along this path have much use for them. Still, as weird to find as it is, they make for a good bit of fun. One of the first contracts you acquire when joining the Dark Brotherhood is to eliminate a villager in Ivarstead named Narfi. What's odd is that we never receive any details about why Narfi is a target, something that's fairly customary for all your other assassinations. However, if before accepting the contract on him you visit Ivarstead yourself, you can talk to Narfi, and while he may seem off...
Rita was here, then gone. Went to gather plants and never came home. Nope.
You'll learn that his sister Rita is missing. This starts the side quest The Straw That Broke, and while you ultimately discover Rita's fate, we never find out what actually killed her. It wasn't any of the creatures on the nearby island, as the innkeeper suggested, and it seems like her death may not have been an accident, since her remains are just beneath the stone bridge into town with 2 arrows floating nearby. However, as nefarious as the details of her death may seem, there's no definitive answer to this question. While Wilhelm's bizarre reaction to seeing Rita's necklace suggests he may have had a hand in some sort of foul play, no murder weapon is found, and nobody around town can offer any motive, for Wilhelm, Narfi, or anyone. Also, who performed the Black Sacrament to place the contract on Narfi? Was it Rita's murderer trying to keep Narfi from learning the truth? Wilhelm, perhaps, considering it a mercy killing to end Narfi's madness? Or was it maybe Narfi himself? Having possibly murdered his sister and going mad with guilt, did he need someone to extract justice that he couldn't? We'll likely never know. Once you reach level 80, you may find yourself challenged by a mighty warrior clad all in black. He seeks to enter Sovngarde, but must meet his end in battle with a mighty warrior to prove his worth, and there's no greater warrior than the Dragonborn. We know that this warrior is a Redguard, and while he claims to have bested all foes and completed all quests, we know next to nothing about him other than that. There's no record of his adventures to be found, and nothing to indicate who he may be under his helm. He can perform a couple of shouts, but he's not another Dragonborn since we don't get his soul when he dies, and some have suggested he may be one of the ancient Swordsinger of Zukuta. But there hasn't been known Swordsinger since the Second Era, almost 700 years before Skyrim takes place. It doesn't seem fair that such an impressive warrior receives so little recognition before meeting his end, but not all life is fair in Tamriel, is it? Throughout the game, and depending on your actions, you'll occasionally be tracked down by a courier bearing messages for you. Some of these messages will be from people seeking an audience with you, such as a Jarl asking for help or offering you property, but there's one missive you received that's simply signed, a friend. The most likely suspect is probably one of the Greybeards, or even Paarthurnax himself, but it's just as likely one of the other many players around Skyrim. Maybe Farengar, or even the Ebony Warrior offering praise from afar, or perhaps, like Fallout's mysterious stranger, this is simply a fan of the Dovahkiin who's just too shy to say hello. At certain points early on in your adventure, early being a loose term here, you'll occasionally be tracked down by an assassin from the Dark Brotherhood. Depending on how long it takes you to look into this shadowy guild, you may end up having to dispatch a bunch of them before deciding to wreck up their operation or join in on the action, and that'd at least explain why they're looking for so many new recruits. But you never find out who sent those first assassins after you. Upon choosing to join the Thieves Guild, you can meet this young Imperial named Rune at their headquarters beneath Riften. Upon introducing himself, you can ask about his unique name and heritage, but he'll tell you that he has no idea. He knows he washed up on shore after a shipwreck near Solitude, and that the farmer who found and raised him named him after the strange, illegible symbols carved on a stone that he had with him from the wreck. Even though you have the option to offer assistance, there is no actual quest to be started, and the only other information you can find on Rune's background is a note saying that there's nothing to find out about Rune's background. Odds are that this was a quest intended to be added as DLC, but instead it just left a big fat loose end dangling in the sewers beneath Riften. We all know that ghosts are totally real in Tamriel, whether it's a cave full of ghastly mercenaries or a bard who keeps hanging around the waterfall he died on, but there's one ghost that we don't really know much about. Sometimes in the night you can find a headless horseman galloping along the road to Hamvir's Rest. This is a clear reference to Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, but it's unlikely that the same ghost who terrorized a 19th century teacher ended up in a medieval fantasy realm. So that begs the question, who is he? Well, it's a fairly common theory that the Horseman is none other than the decapitated ghost of Ragnar the Red, the famed hero who's sung about in various taverns around Skyrim. For those who aren't familiar, the tune goes a little something like this.
Well, there once was a hero named Ragnar the Red who came riding to Whiterun from old Rorikstead. And the braggart named Ragnar was boastful no more when his ugly red head rolled around on the floor.
So, based on the song, we know that Ragnar met a violent end somewhere along his journey from Rorikstead to Whiterun, a route which just so happens to pass by Hamvir's Rest, where the horseman's nightly ride meets its end. In this sleepy little graveyard, you can find a large casket with a skull nearby, as well as an axe that resembles the one that the horseman carries. You know, actually, that pretty much seems to seal the deal, so I guess this was 6 of Skyrim's best unanswered questions, and 1 question that did get answered. Sort of. For more Skyrim goodness, check out the best and/or weirdest mods for the PC version, or see how the Switch version stacks up against the PS4 and PC releases. And for everything else on games that came out 6 years ago, or games coming out now if you're into that, stick around on IGN.